listening to KTST FM, Orange County. Now broadcasting from coast to coast and around the world at KTSTFM.com. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome, welcome to Talent in the Southland. And I am your host, Linda Lee Grau. Today we have an author with us. Yes, an author who wrote a book called The Way They See It. And you'll want to remember that name because if you like the book description, you can access it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or authorhouse.com. The Way They See It. And the author is with us today. Her name is Jacki Baldridge-Malec. Hi, Jacki.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here today because only you could explain this book. This is an unusual book. It's a workbook, but it's also an explanation. Tell us a little bit about it, Jacki.
About the book? It
Yes.
actually is a combination of heartfelt thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the teens, and also the other side of the coin, the parents. And they were both asked 5 questions. And in between the chapters, it has a workbook in between it.
And that is what makes it an interesting format and something different. Well, The Way They See It. Why did you come up with this book? Okay, now, what was that telling us, Jacki?
It's telling us that this is the culture. This is what's happening. And I was doing some research, and I'm finding out that suicide is very prevalent in our society, in our culture, in our homes, across the world.
Yes.
And I do get a little emotional talking about it. Children between 10 and 24 are committing suicide. 1 in every 40 seconds.
1 in every 40 seconds, a child under the age of 18.
Well, between 10 and 24 around the world are committing suicide.
Around the world. And this also includes veterans, Iraq and Afghanistani veterans?
They're talking about anyone around the world, 1 every 40 seconds, somebody is destitute, feels alone, isolated, not connecting, and they feel worthless, or to get to that point. And I was researching it, and it's saying if you put together the wars, if you put together acts of terror, if you put together homicide, suicide is more than any of those put together. And here we are, this whole war on terror, whole war on guns, and protection, and guns, yes, no, Republicans, Democrats. We need to listen to each other. That's the main point. That's the main point of this book, and it's not happening.
Okay, but the book is going to build those bridges, especially between teens and their parents.
Correct.
That is going to avoid self-destructive behavior on the part of the teen and or the parents.
Correct.
And we have plenty of information in the news that tells us this book is needed. So we're going to get into more about the book and how you came to write it, Jacki.
Okay.
And no more music, though. Because
that's it. I'm done with the music.
Yeah, that was.
But out of those that do commit suicide, they say 4 out of 5 give out a red flag.
Okay.
4 out of 5.
We're going to talk more about those red flags and how to avoid the problem right in the family unit when we get back from our first commercial. Talent in the Southland here, and I am your host, Linda Lee Grau. I search all over Southern California region for talented people who have something special to offer the rest of us. And our author today, Jacki Baldridge-Malec, has taken it upon herself to write a book called The Way They See It. And really the subtitle tells it all. It's Rebuilding Bridges Between Teens and Their Parents. Now, one of the compelling reasons you wrote the book is because of your distress at how many suicides there are, not just in our communities here in the United States, but all over the world. And Jacki, what are some of the other reasons that you had for writing the book?
It was just a personal issue with my son and his own inner core friends. They all were, as freshmen, very happy-go-lucky and all this. By sophomore year, the weight of the world was coming down on their shoulders, and especially the girls. I think the girls have, all the stresses, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, it's still alive and well today. And so I kind of called a little tea party, had them over, and wanted them to kind of discuss what's happening.
This was the girls first.
Only the girls.
Only the girls.
And
okay.
I wasn't a parent of any of them, so they could speak freely.
Yes.
And it was amazing how they all felt the same, but were never able to express that to each other.
Well, this is one of my complaints, Jacki, and you hit on it when you have been talking about this. The youth of today gets so much input, but the only output is very surface social networking. Mm-hmm. And they need a place and a time to really talk about core issues and the things that are going on in their lives. Mm-hmm. And does this book enable the young teens to do that?
Absolutely. And one of the preventative things for depression or suicide is, it said the #1 prevention is an active interest in the human being. And I believe this workbook and the actual feelings and describing things gets you interested in them without feeling like you're getting pointed at, like you're a terrible parent. Everybody's fingers are pointing into the book and recognizing themselves in the pages.
Oh, yes, yes. And I did recognize myself in those pages. and it was illuminating because, as you said earlier, two sides of a coin. Mm-hmm. The one is the teens. Mm-hmm. They're feeling blocked in their communication with their parents. Mm-hmm. But the other side of the coin is the parents are feeling blocked in their communication.
Exactly. In our tea parties, the parents would come to pick them up, and they're crying in my kitchen because they're not connecting with this child that's crying because they're not connecting with the parents.
Right.
So they can find each other in the book.
In the book. And The Way They See It by Jacki Baldridge-Malec can be found as an ebook at Barnes & Noble, at Amazon.com, and at the publisher of the book, authorhouse.com. Now, can they also call you, Jacki, and say, I'm at my wit's end, what can I do? Your book has taken me this far, and I need to go the rest of the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a website, but now with Apple and all the redoing their website, they canceled all the websites that were done on that. But absolutely, they can either call or they can email or text.
Okay, and we'll get back to those contact pieces of information after our next break. Here we are again at Talent in the Southland. I'm your host, Linda Lee Grau, interviewing Jacki Baldridge-Malec, who wrote a book called The Way They See It. And there's humor in the book, there's lightheartedness, but there's also some serious discussion that youngsters let their parents know how they really feel about certain things, and vice versa, the parents let them know. And Jacki, if somebody is at their wit's end and they say, I don't know what to do with my teen, how do they call you and get in touch with you and get some extra advice and consultation?
I would say probably email is the best way. And it's just mgmalec, M-A-L-E-C, at yahoo.com.
MGMALEC at yahoo.com. And that's the best way to reach you and get a little advice when a parent is in a place where they don't want to be and they know there's a better way to communicate with their youngster. Well, what did you learn, Jacki, through the entire process of putting together this book and getting it published?
Okay, I learned 3 very interesting things. I actually wrote in it, and I did the questions, because the parents answer and the kids answer the same exact questions. And I learned so much about myself. I learned where I was in life. I learned how important this job is as a parent. I learned that I was stressed. I learned a lot on answering. In the book, it has the answers, and then the workbook, it has pondering points, so it reviews it, and then it talks about exciting exercises. So the exercises have been really fun to do as a family. actually had a gal stop me at Target and said, you know what, I was reading the book and I was that girl. I'm that girl that doesn't appreciate her parents. And we started doing the exercises and we're doing the family nights. And it was so rewarding to see that. And the third thing of the, it talks about personal inventory. So I learned a lot about myself through the personal inventory. Where am I right now as a person, as a parent, as a, raising these children? It's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility.
And the second thing I learned, and my husband was bringing this up as well, is we both were amazed at how hungry all the kids were to be heard.
Yes.
They were. When we were sitting around saying, why don't we write some things and see if people will read it, one of the girls started crying, saying, someone's actually going to want to read my thoughts.
Oh.
And she's one that said, I don't know if you remember, she said, I tell my parents not to show up at the games, and I look for them in the stands. So it's a time of a lot of confusion for kids and parents and mixed signals.
Yes.
But I think instead of calling me, sit down and talk with your child. And if you really answer the questions honestly, and you do the personal inventory, it's like I just finally was kind of resurrecting the book again. I was like, this is really good. It has a lot. It is
good. It is.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do with yourself and with your family. I had a mom that remarried someone else and that was doing some of these exercises and was realizing the stepdad was feeling really left out, but they didn't know it until they read it to the exercises. They were trying to protect him from all the girly time, the mom and the sister, the daughter time, but he was saying, I want to be included. And they didn't know that until they did this.
How important is that? Blended families need it as much as every other family.
Exactly. The other thing I did learn is that it's sad enough to say that drama sells. So we did get a call from Dr. Phil about this, and they wanted more drama. But the thing is this book is preventative, and it's before the drama hits.
Yes.
And I think as a society, culture, whatever word we want to use, American culture, I guess, feeds off drama and other people's mishaps.
Oh, yes.
And they're not wanting to actually help.
So many of those reality shows, so many of those TV shows are putting drama into the mix, and
no solutions.
We need to solution them. We need solutions, and we also need to deactivate the drama and get to the core problems. I also liked in your book, Jacki, that you had some very profound thoughts from well-known famous people like Stephen Covey. And one of my favorite ones was a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Do you happen to remember that quote?
Yes. What lies before us, what lies behind us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
What lies behind us
and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
Oh, and that is so important and pithy to remember when we're talking with our teens, because our teens are really very deep people. They have a lot to tell us, a lot to share with us. And sometimes we're only piling on stresses without understanding where they're coming from.
Right, and that's why reading this, you realize, you hear other kids and you go, oh my gosh, I'm doing that. I'm that parent doing that. I mean, it's much easier to hear it from another child than your child saying, stop doing this, stop, you really hear it for the first time when you read it through this. And the other thing, the interesting you brought up Stephen Covey is the whole basis is his number 5 step is you have to understand before you can be understood. So I think a lot of times we try to cram everything down our kids, but we need to understand where they're at first before they can understand us.
That is really, really vital when you're dealing with your teens, to give them the time, the space, and the listening ear that allows them to share with you where they're at. It seems so simple when we're talking about it here, Jacki, but I remember when I was raising my youngsters, that's the hardest part, listening to our teens. And you also said something to me before we began the interview, which I thought was very important, and that is you don't have to wait until your child is a teen.
It's almost too late then.
To go through this workbook with them the way they see it. It is even helpful for parents when their children are younger, and a gentleman told me this just recently, we are setting the groundwork for our children's teen years. And so tell me a little bit about that. What would you suggest for parents who have children who are maybe 5, 6, 10 years old?
I would say read it immediately. I mean, when you're pregnant, because it happens quick. They just grow up. But also not just, I strongly believe, not just our own teens, but every teen, your neighbor, the kid that brings the newspaper. I mean, they're all starving to be heard. And the word listen is also, you mix up the letters, it's silent. We're never really silent. We're in the shower, we got the music, we got this, we got the phones are always beeping. We're never silent enough. Even for, you never know. I mean, I go to my kids' classrooms and they want to just talk because there isn't that time with anybody.
Yes.
To just talk. So it's not just if now I have a teen or now I have a preteen. I think it's honestly, whether they borrow it or whatever, but to really read what's going on. This is our makeup of a community, are these teens, and they're going to grow up and be the leaders. And if no one's listening, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like the experiment with the frogs and the water is in two sides, and if they do the temperature little by little, the frogs never jump out, and then the water's boiling and they literally die. I feel as a society we're at that point. As a culture, it's boiling.
Yes.
And people are shooting, killing each other.
Oh.
I mean, it can't be said enough that we have.
We have these eruptions, and you're saying to yourself, how did that individual get to that point of frustration that they would do the terrible thing they did?
And I bet you they're not sitting down as a family and eating dinner together. I think that is the simplest thing to do, but it's the hardest thing to do.
That could be one of the first steps for parents who have sub-teens, making sure that the dinner hour is a time for the children to share with the parents what they're thinking about, what they're doing, what their stresses are, and who's better to be that support system than the parents.
Right.
And the parents need to know, how am I able to facilitate what is happening to my youngster in the way of support?
Right. And we won't know if we don't listen.
We won't know if we don't listen. That is so true. So, Jacki, as you said, if you're a pregnant woman, get to the ebook. If you're a family member of any family unit, get to the book. And the way to do that is to go to
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or AuthorHouse.com, or email me and I'll see if I can print out some more.
Right.
I really, honestly, in all sincerity, I mean, I think it's especially in this economy, it's so expensive to have a therapist. This literally is the therapist. It's everything in one book. And you'll revisit yourself.
Yes, and your background has lent itself to putting this book together. What is your background, Jacki?
So I have my psychology degree from UCLA,
yes,
and I have my teaching credential from Chapman University.
A fine university.
Yeah, both.
Yes.
Go Bruins.
Yes.
But and I think the thing that really prepared me for this is having 4 kids.
Oh, yes.
That's the real university right there, right?
Yes, years ago in another life, I was a teacher, but I hadn't had children yet.
Oh.
And when I look back and think about the advice I gave parents as a teacher, I have to laugh, because nothing prepares you for understanding teens and children and where they're coming from than being a parent yourself.
Right. And when we were pregnant, we had the book What to Expect While Expecting. Then we had What to Expect the Toddler Years. And then it drops you. And now you have these kids, and this is the hardest part. And this is that next little manual, what to do while you're raising teens.
Yes.
Because they don't have that.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about the last questions that I have for you, Jacki, that we haven't covered yet. And you're going to tell us how to email you with specific questions. And we will be finishing our interview in a short while. But this is such vital information. I really thank you for coming here today.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll come back from our break and get that information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we're back again here at Talent in the Southland. I'm your host, Linda Lee Grau. We're having a fun day today, Jacki and I. And Jacki brought an observer, Nancy, to keep her on the right track. And we're even videotaping it, and hopefully people will see it on YouTube in the very near future, thanks to Michael Brennan. But Jacki, I wanted to ask you a few more questions. And one of the questions is, after reading your book and all those personal stories that are told in the book by teens and parents, I can't help but ask, what would be your dream, your marketing concept, and how would you widen your base of perspectives and books that you want to do in the future?
Well, my dream would be that, number one and foremost, that parents really do listen to their kids. They do this. Going through the book, they can't help but get closer to themselves first, kind of figure out where we're at as a person, and then to their child. What happened just as a natural course of time, after this came out, a friend of mine stopped me in the market and said, hey, I love the book, but I want people to know what it's like to be Jewish. And I said, okay. So she said, why don't you do the way they see it, the Jew, the Christian, the Muslim. And then they answer the same 5 questions, what they love about being their faith, what they don't like about their religion. And they answer the 5 questions. We would do a workbook in between as well. And then, because she goes, people don't understand my faith, you know. And then I have a lot of people on the works that want to go ahead and do, you know, who's a Tahitian Muslim. I have an Iraqi Catholic. So it was kind of out of the box thinking of where, you know, you would originally kind of place them.
Yes.
But I'm getting word from other people. They want to be heard. They want other people to understand. They don't want to just be labeled.
They're in a niche in the culture, and to truly express themselves and share with other people what they're thinking, they need first to explain where they're at and what their core values are.
Right. And the thing is also is to get a broader base. That's a good question. Is that it would be fabulous to be able to get on something or a show or something, even if it's a 7-minute segment, and then talk about the topic, have someone there that is going through this, and then have everyone else send in their answers, and then compile it, put a workbook in between, and then like 2 months later say, here's the next book, here it is, see if your stories got in, and then have the next series on. So I have already, you know, the Jew, the Christian, the Muslim, the special needs family, their siblings, because that has a hard thing.
That's also worthy of a book all in itself, the special needs child in the family.
This would be all separate books under the same title as The Way They See It.
Yes.
This is kind of, and it's not really my idea, it's just kind of been because other people are wanting to hear both sides in the same format with a workbook put in it on all these different topics. So one is the bully and the bullied.
Is that ever needed nowadays?
That's needed, and it seems like there's so many experts that tell us what they think and whatever. But what's beautiful about this is that it's the actual people telling you how it really is, what they really need, what they're really stressed with, what they're afraid of, So I have a young man who's like 25 now, was bullied in 8th grade, and he has a horrible stuttering problem, and he really wants to get another book. And I got a call from one of these shows, Steve Wilkos, to go on the show. The problem is it's all about drama, and they were a friend of mine, I had never seen the show. I don't know if I should say. But someone else said, I've seen it, and they're just going to really exploit it.
All right, let me ask you a question, Jacki. From your perspective, would you say that we would have less bullies if bullies were listened to better?
Yeah, absolutely. They're not just born. They're
Right.
They're definitely. 100%.
They've been warped and twisted into this cruel individual because somebody somewhere wasn't listening to them and supporting them in their crying need for whatever it is they're missing.
And they're probably getting bullied at home. Maybe it's the stepdad. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, that's maybe a stereotype. But I think hurting people hurt people. So I think this format, having people really speak, you really can walk in their shoes for a little bit.
Yes. Now, speaking of walking in their shoes, one more time, give us the email that people who have a critical need instantaneously can call you and get some support.
Okay, well, I can give my cell. Okay. Okay, my email.
I think
okay.
the email
Okay.
would work.
Okay.
The cell phone
Because now
would,
you may-
would be, you wouldn't have
It'd be
any
too much,
time
yeah.
for
Then
yourself.
I'll be calling someone, help me out of this. Okay, it's MG. It's after my daughter, Milana Grace. That's why it's
okay, that's a
MG.
beautiful name,
Milana
Milana
Grace.
Grace.
She's the singer. She'll be next on the Milana Grace Malec, MALEC @yahoo.com. And I'd be
Okay.
very happy to see an email. But and
Yes.
if they have other ideas, but we'd have to.
Yes.
My dream, as the question was, my dream would be to have a platform to get a wider audience, to answer the questions, compile the book, do the workbook, and then get it out there.
Well, if the timing is right, Jackie, it certainly is right. It certainly is needed here and all around the world. So I'm wishing you good fortune and strength from your God and all of the things that you need to make this happen, because it's a delightful book. It's something that belongs in everybody's library. The way they see it. Rebuilding Bridges Between Teens and Parents by Jacki Baldridge-Malec. And thanks again for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's been great having you here on Talent in the Southland.